Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So in this one, we are taking a look at the third iteration of Sanctum Showdown. If you weren't around for the last Sanctum Showdown, it's a pretty interesting twist on normal Snap, where instead of fighting for cubes, you're fighting for points. Each location will be worth a set amount of points on each turn, with the first two turns having one location you fight over for 1 point. Then, starting on turn 3, one of the locations will be worth 4 points, and you can snap to bump it up another point, as can your opponent, while the other locations are only worth 1 point each. And you win the game by being the first person to get to 16 or more points. Sanctum makes its return this month, is live now in-game, and is how you go about acquiring one of the new Horde cards this month, the Hunger. So, what is Sanctum looking like this time around? You might notice there's a new premium pass here, with some bonus stuff that you can get for 800 gold or roughly 10 USD. So is it worth it? Let's talk about that and then get into some decks that are good for the game mode. The Portal Pull also makes its return to the mode, but this time just for some limited cosmetics. You can see there is a Spirit of Vengeance variant for Daredevil, Swordmaster, and X-23, and they are available for 800 charms each. And there are a few other exclusive things here, like a new Enchantress and Spectrum variant, as well as a multiple man and Drax emote, and some new borders that we haven't seen before, like this green fire one, and this purple cosmic one, which has been in some of the other limited time modes. And then we have the other usual stuff, some credits, premium mystery variant, various other avatars, all that kind of stuff. As usual, Lauren Whatevs has done the math, so you don't have to, and we get a pretty good comparison here of what it takes to get the new card and what it takes to complete the pass as a free player versus a premium pass player. And, well, the numbers are very clear here. It's very doable as a free player. I don't think it'll be that hard to accomplish. Looks like you can even do it with a 40% win rate, which I think is lower than most people will have by a pretty significant margin. But it's going to take you quite a bit of games. At a 40% win rate, it'll take you 72 games to get the Hunger and 164 games to complete the free pass track. Those numbers change to 67 and 153 if you bump it up to 50% win rate, and 63 and 144 if you bump it up to 60%. But the premium pass shortens this grind massively. In fact, there are already people who have the new card, and I'm recording this like an hour and a half after the mode came out. So with the premium pass, getting the Hunger will take you 16 to 18 games, or completing the pass will take you somewhere between 51 and 58. So for completion's sake, it's basically 3 times as fast for completing the pass and over 4 times as fast to get the Hunger. So if you're hungering for the Hunger and you want to get it right away, the pass will let you do that very quickly. Here you can see all the offerings they have available in the free pass and the premium pass. In terms of progression value, I don't think there is a whole lot of value here. But if you just care about completing the mode as fast as possible to get the new card, or you really like the cosmetics, I think there's a decent value proposition there for 800 gold. But if you're purely a progression-focused player, and you only care about value that's going to be getting you closer to new cards, and you don't mind grinding the mode, I don't think this is something you should feel you have to spend your gold on. It seems like something you can pass on without really missing out on anything but cosmetics and more time in the mode. If you want more detailed information, I'll leave a link in the description to Lauren's thread. I'd highly recommend giving it a look. One of the things that has changed with Sanctum is a new ban list. So we can see they have all the cards that were banned previously, but they've added new ones to the ban list this time around, including Rocket Raccoon, Gamora, Cull Obsidian, Surtur, and Werewolf by Night. If you've played the previous iterations of Sanctum, you know these were all stars in the format, going in a bunch of decks and kind of dominating the meta. I'm always personally a fan of when they decide to shake up formats like this. We get to see new and interesting decks being built without these ones kind of weighing things down. There will always be a meta that gets found out relatively quickly in these limited time modes, but it at least makes the initial experience a bit more fresh. Though I wouldn't have minded to see them do something against the move shells as well, like Human Torch, but oh well. So now that you know a bit about Sanctum and the changes to the mode with the premium pass and ban list, let's take a look at some decks to play to win you those scrolls and charms and unlock the Hunger. First up, we have a traditional move list. So this is one where I was surprised they didn't ban any cards from this, particularly something like Human Torch, as it's a very powerful scaler that you can move around and use to win the Sanctum lane over and over. And so far it seemed very strong in my testing. Now I do think the meta will adapt to this with people running things like Shadow King or Mercury, but for the time being, while it's still day one, I think this is a really strong deck in the format. The gameplay is pretty simple. You want to move your big scalers around the board to get more value out of them, so namely Human Torch and Vulture as the main two, and Dagger as our backup. Those scalers are going to be the bulk of our points, and as such, about half of our deck is dedicated to just moving them around the board with Aranya, Iron Fist, Ghost Spider, Madam Web, and Doctor Strange. Copycat's always been an all-star in this mode because it can just copy text of really powerful things your opponent can't predict, and it's just a good body for the cost. Miles is another good body for the cost if you're doing any kind of move shenanigans. Stegron can be a surprise way to bump your opponent out of the lane, and Crossbones is just Cull Obsidian at home because he's giving us very strong stats on a 4-drop, and we don't really have to worry about his downside quite as much if we can place him in a lane where we've already put a big scaler. Next up we have Sanctum Stomper. So this is one where it is trying to do similar move scaly things. Doesn't go quite as tall as the first move list, but you do get the benefit of running a card like Mercury, which can really shut down opposing move strategies. The big scaler in this list is Batroc, who we're going to move around the board with things like Sam's Shield, Hydra Bob, or Silk, and then we're going to profit off of that with things like our Hydra Stomper or Miles. Iron Patriot can get us a cheap, powerful card that's hard for our opponent to predict. Craven gives us even more scaling potential off our movers, and things like Spider-Man and Stegron are really good at disrupting the opponent's positioning. And last but not least, Helion is just a good way to take a gamble where you can slam him and take a 50-50 on whether you're going to get the Sanctum in the Helion lane next turn or not, and if you do, you are almost certainly going to win it. Then we have the classic Sauron deck. It's not quite as good as it was last time with the loss of things like Cull Obsidian and Surtur, but I think it's more than strong enough to compete here, as big points matter a ton in this mode, and this deck is still just very effective at putting out big points. I do think for a deck like this, you are going to want to respect the scaling of move. I chose to do that with Shadow King because it hits more than just the move decks, but you could also do it with Mercury, and if you're seeing a lot of them, you could even run both, but I only opted to run one in my own personal list here as I felt like that was enough, and Shadow King just kind of gets the job done versus them very effectively. Not too much to say about this deck, it's very straightforward. You want to get rid of your downside effects on your big statted creatures with Sauron, Zero, or Enchantress, and then we're just playing above rate cards with Scar as a big payoff for getting our 10 power plus things onto the board. So far at least, there's been less Shang-Chi in this mode compared to last time. We'll see if it stays that way, but for the time being, while that's the case, Sauron Scar is ripe to take advantage of it. Then we have a bit more of a mid-range focused power list. It's not quite as all in on getting the 10 power dudes out, but it does run a good amount of cards that are very effective for their costs stat-wise. And something like Vision here is an all-star in this mode, because if you can ramp him out early with Luna Snow or some kind of other location energy ramp effect, you can just keep moving him to the Sanctum, which is super duper strong. And even outside of move decks, Ghost Spider is just really great for when you do slam one of your big cards like Ares, Crossbones, Red Hulk, Gladiator. You can just yoink it over to the Sanctum lane to win it again on the next turn. Hydra Bob and Black Cat are going to be the goated 1-drops. It is kind of funny they banned Rocket, but Black Cat is now the new 1/5 of the mode. Iron Patriot just really good in the mode for getting that random reduced card. And the same is true of Copycat, who gets a lot of value. So if you like doing big stats, but you don't want to go all in on the negative effects, I think this is another way you can go about doing that. And once again, we're running Mercury to kind of check those move strategy. And last but not least, it wouldn't be a Sanctum deck showcase without Zoo. So even though Zoo did lose some of their cards that were pretty good in the mode, namely the Guardians, the core of Zoo is still very strong here. Crossbones acts as a very easy Cull Obsidian replacement, Black Cat's an easy Rocket Raccoon replacement, and Mercury is just the tech I opted to include, but you could swap out that spot for whatever you're facing a lot of. If you're seeing a bunch of big 10 power guys, Shang-Chi could be good, Killmonger if you're facing other Zoo decks potentially, Shadow King if you want to double up against move strategies. It really depends on what you're seeing and how you want to adapt your deck, but Zoo is probably the most straightforward deck of the bunch here. You just want to populate your board with a bunch of small things, get those points in the early game, and then buff your wide board with ongoing effects in the later game with Khazar and Blue Marvel, before finishing it off with a big Gilgamesh, Crossbones, or Mockingbird. And that's going to wrap it up for our Day 1 Sanctum Showdown breakdown. It is worth noting that the limit on scrolls here, I believe, has been reduced. It used to be 10, where if you had under 10, it would always regenerate up to 10. Now it only regenerates up to 8, so make sure you are using those scrolls as you can, so that way you don't waste any free regens on your scrolls. As usual, the links to the decks will be in the description, and let me know in the comments what you think about Sanctum Showdown this time around. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.